Welcome to FIXIY. Today we're going to show you how to change the screen in an iPhone 4. We know it's an iPhone 4 by the model number at the back. It's model A1332. First, make sure your unit is powered off. When you buy the repair kit from FIXIY, you get the replacement part that you need. You get all the tools that you need, and you step-by-step guide in how to carry out the repair. You can also follow it on this video. First thing we do is remove the two screws at the back at either side of the dock connector. These screws are holding on the back cover. To do this, you need the pentalobe screwdriver. When you're taking out the screws all the way through, make sure to keep the screws separate and aligned so you know which screw goes where when you put them back together. It's very important. Slide the cover back up, lift it by the upper side, and it comes off. Next, disconnect the battery. On the iPhone 4 there was one screw in the battery only. Phillips screwdriver from here on in. Use the plastic levering tool, come at the outer end of it and flick it up. Make sure you're prying the connector up from the socket and not the complete socket itself. Come at the other end, the solid side, put the sludger down and the battery will lift up. Take the grounding clip and put it with the battery screw. Next, fold the plastic tape back. We want to take off the dock connector screws, which are these ones. The smaller one is on the outside, the larger one goes into the board. Take off the plastic plate, or the metal plate. Unclip the dock connector simply by putting your finger inside it, lift it up from the connector and peel it back. Like that. You can now release the cell antenna, which is this one. This is the one that receives the signal to your phone. So if you have a problem with the signal afterwards, it's got to do with this little connector not being down properly. Be very gentle with that connector, it's very easy to damage it. Using your Phillips, remove the two screws at either end of the loudspeaker, which is this one. Working up the board, taking out the middle holding screw. The screw also has the water indicator on it. It's white at the moment when it's not affected by water. If it was affected by water, that would be red or pinkish colour. That's how we know when a phone has been water damaged. Next, back up to the 5 screws holding down the metal bracket here. Very important not to mix these screws up. Okay, take them out. The top long screw, the one I just took out, that's got to do with the Wi-Fi. It's the longest screw there, so if you have problems with the Wi-Fi afterwards, it will be related to either that screw or there's a metal clip on this bracket. Make sure it doesn't come off. Now, just simply put your finger underneath the upper side of it bracket will remove. Next, vibrating motor. Out. Next, use flat, take off the flathead. There's only one of these in the iPhone 4. There's two in the 4S. Okay. Using your SIM ejector tool, take out the SIM. Next, disconnect all the cables. Just start from the outside in, just put your finger underneath them, flick them up. Quite easy. Take out the camera. Take out the board, starting from the lower end. Just pull it, move it to the side slightly, flick back your cables, lift it up gently, and it's out. Next, take out the loudspeaker. Just give it at the bottom, a slight bit of adhesive holding it down, so it's just quite easy to take out. Now we're ready for the screen. You've got 3 larger screws at either side with washers on them. There's no need to take out these screws, you just loosen them. You've got 4 small screws all the way around at either corner. They have to come out. So, number 1. Okay, now go ahead, loosen the screws, just give them about 2 turns. Make sure you grip your screwdriver properly into all the Phillips screws, because it is quite easy to round the screw, which makes it very difficult then to take it out afterwards. Now the screen's ready to come out. Screws loosened, 4 screws are out. Just lift up the cables gently, just like that, just to give it a start. So now we use a plastic pry tool, or you can use the edge of a blade. If it's tight, sometimes they're loose, sometimes they're tight. So use the edge of the plastic pry tool, then work down. It's glued on, so like it can be quite difficult to take them off. Sometimes I use the an old Stanley knife blade, something like that, just something thin and solid to be able to get in and twist it up like that, and it will come out. So just feed the cables through, and that's it, that's off. If you have broken glass at this stage, you may have, just keep your area nice and clean so that the new screen doesn't get damaged. Now we want to remove 2 parts from the old screen. One is the lens protector for the camera, just a little plastic protector. Fit that straight onto the phone. It will only go in one way. The other side of it is solid. You'll be able to see that in yours. Fit straight down. Next part is the earpiece grill. Just get a knife, slide under it. It's just a little bit of adhesive holding it there. Now we're finished with that old screen. You can fit the earpiece grill directly onto the phone. Oh, I've got my new screen here. First thing I want to do is remove the plastic cover at the back. There's a little lip at the bottom, just peel it off. That's what it looked like. Most important part here, and this is where most people make the mistake and break the screen, is when they're feeding the cables through that bracket hole. They catch this loop between the bracket and the screen. That cable, that data cable loop gets bent back and the cable is then broken, which means you need a new screen. It's very easy to avoid. You just keep the cables together, you feed the loop through, they'll be the same length, you don't pull the cables, you just feed it through gently and it should work, no problem. Before I do that, I want to make sure all the washers are out against the screw heads, which makes it easier. So there's only 6 of them. That's it. Just makes it easier so you don't have to lift the screen afterwards, try and get them right. So now we're ready to feed the 2 cables through. Lift it up to your eye level so that you can see the loop going down. That's it. Flick it over, put it down flat. You fit your screen down, make sure it's right before you tighten up the screws. Look at it from the side. Mine is fitting down nicely, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the 2 middle screws, larger ones, using the Phillips. Come around to the middle one. This is just to hold them in place while I inspect the screen. Okay, so my earpiece grill is in place. My home button is working. It looks just right from the side, so go ahead, tighten up the screen. Always put pressure on the outside of the frame just to give the screen good tight fit. Okay, on the 2 data cables, just push them down like that so they sit nicely in to where they're supposed to be. Start now, put in your 4 corner screws. Again, these are small screws, so just be patient with them if you're not getting them the first time. Try it again, they will go. So now I have all my screws in, 4 outer screws, they're tight. So now we're ready to reassemble the phone. Start with the loudspeaker. Just dip it into place, like that. These are the EMI fingers, just push them forward so they sit down into place. Put the right screw in. Next, put back in the logic board. So, gently hold back the 3 data cables at the top like that. Data board, just slide it in. Make sure it doesn't get caught on the LCD cable. Now tilt the top of it forward, gently slide it back. Make sure the cell antenna isn't getting caught in it. That's it. Slip it down into place. Start bottom corner left side with screw. Next, use the water indicated screw. It goes into the middle. Next, pick up the flat screw, top right corner of the board. Don't over tighten any of these screws, just tight. No need to squeeze them. Next, flip back down the cell antenna. Make sure you're watching properly what you're doing. Like this, back into place. Next, close down the dock connector cable. And you can hear it clipping into place. Next, put back on the dock connector cable bracket. Larger screw goes on the right side, smaller on the outside, just in case you do mix them up. Next, close down the cables, just flip them over. Feel them go into place. This cable can be quite tricky at times to get in, so if you're having difficulty, just move it around a little bit until you find exactly where it has to go. Again, don't use excessive force with any of them. Next, put back in your camera. So you have your lip, slide that under the cables so it's on top of the board. Back into place, close it down. Next, put in the vibrating motor. Smaller screw goes on the outside. Next, we're ready to put back down the bracket. Again, make sure that this silver clip is in place. If it isn't, your Wi-Fi won't work. Okay, so start with the middle top one, which is the longest screw. There, your Wi-Fi screw. Next, small screw to the right. So when you have these laid out in front of you, it's easy to follow them back in, so you won't get confused. The smallest one goes to the inside of it, inside corner. The next larger one on the left. So now, put back in the grounding clip goes over the cell antenna. Slip back in the battery. Clip it back into place. Next, put down your battery screw. Next, we're going to put on our back cover. Starting from the top, slide it back down like that. Next, pentalobe screwdriver for the two back screws. When the earlier version of the iPhone 4 came out, these screws were in Phillips, so you may not need the pentalobe screwdriver. All the later ones you will need a pentalobe. Next, put it back into SIM. This is working perfectly, it just needs to be charged. The phone's dead, but I can see the symbols up on the screen, so there's no issues with that. Thank you for watching. If you need any parts, any advice, contact us at www.fixiy.ie. That's FIXIY.ie.